In the unforgiving world of boxing, arrogance can be a heavy burden. When a fighter underestimates his opponent, it often leads to painful consequences. And when that opponent is Naoya Inoue, widely known as the Monster, those consequences become brutal and unforgettable. Time and again, cocky contenders have mocked Inoue's name, his heritage, his opponents, and even his country. But what followed was not just defeat, it was destruction. Long before these opponents tasted the canvas, their mouths were already running. They laughed at his name, scoffed at his record, and doubted his legitimacy as a champion simply because he hailed from Japan. But once the bell rang, all that talk evaporated in the face of a cold, precise, and merciless barrage of fists. This is the story of what happened to the fighters who mocked Naoya Inoue, and why it's never wise to awaken the monster. In one of the earliest and most telling examples of arrogance gone wrong, British fighter Jamie McDonnell dismissed Naoya Inoue as nothing more than overhyped. He belittled the Japanese name, claiming he couldn't even pronounce it, referring to Inoue mockingly as a new way. When asked if he'd heard of his opponent, McDonnell scoffed and said, "I didn't. I still don't even know I can't pronounce his first name. I just call him a new way." The disrespect wasn't just personal, it was national. McDonnell cast doubt on Inoue's entire career, questioning whether he had truly been tested since most of his fights had been in Japan. But Inoue didn't respond with words. He didn't need to. Instead, he let his fists do the talking. It took less than a round, just a single round, for Jamie McDonnell to regret every syllable. From the opening seconds, Inoue pounced like a predator, unloading a fierce combination of left hooks and body shots that pinned McDonnell against the ropes. Despite being the taller, more experienced fighter, McDonnell looked like a deer in headlights. He tried to jab, tried to move, but Inoue's power and precision were simply too much. The crowd watched in awe as McDonnell was sent crashing to the canvas. When he got up, dazed and wobbling, Inoue went back in, closing the show with a series of devastating punches that forced the referee to jump in. The so-called new way had just introduced himself, with violence. The Brit who once mocked the name now remembered it vividly and painfully. Then came the case of Antonio Nieves, a brash American who took things a step further. Nieves didn't just mock Inoue's name, he mocked his entire resume, even going so far as to question whether fighters from Japan could compete at the global level. Nieves scoffed at Inoue's past victories and claimed the hype was all about nationality. "Has he really been tested?" Nieves said. "All his fights have been in Japan, half of them were at 108 pounds. The hype's only around him because he's Japanese." It wasn't just an insult, it was a challenge. And once again, Inoue answered the challenge in the most devastating way imaginable. Nieves stepped into the ring in front of a home crowd, representing the United States on a card headlined by legends. The spotlight was bright, and the arrogance lingered in his eyes. But across the ring stood Naoya Inoue, calm and focused, dressed like a medieval executioner, ready to carry out his sentence. From the opening bell, Inoue was methodical. He used his jab to create space, then closed it with terrifying speed. His punches landed with precision and purpose. By the second round, the crowd had turned. The American audience, initially unfamiliar with the Japanese fighter, began to cheer for him. They recognized greatness when they saw it. Nieves tried to fight back, swinging wildly and throwing body shots, but he couldn't keep up. Every miss left him open for a counter, and Inoue never missed an opportunity. In the third and fourth rounds, the punishment became one-sided. Inoue toyed with Nieves, landing thunderous body shots and left hooks that forced his opponent to retreat. By the fifth, Nieves could no longer hide his pain. A left hook to the body dropped him to his knees. He stood up bravely, but the look in his eyes told the story. He was broken. The sixth round was a formality. Inoue walked him down, battering his ribs with left hooks that echoed through the arena. The crowd, now fully behind the monster, began to chant his name. When Nieves' corner threw in the towel after the sixth, it wasn't just to save the fighter. It was to save his career, maybe even his life. He had dared to mock the monster. He would never make that mistake again. And yet the lesson wasn't learned. Another fighter, Warlito Parenas, decided to test Inoue's patience. Parenas had been campaigning for a shot at Inoue's title, and when he finally got it, he made the mistake of acting like he deserved it. He smiled arrogantly at press conferences, performed flashy moves at weigh-ins, and taunted Inoue during the pre-fight face-off. As soon as the bell rang, the taunting stopped. Parenas, known for his toughness, was immediately put on the defensive. Inoue wasn't just fighting, he was hunting. With precise accuracy and a frightening rhythm, he punished Parenas with hooks and straight rights that left him disoriented. Inoue didn't just land punches. He placed them exactly where they needed to be. By the end of the second round, it was clear Parenas had no business being in the ring with the monster. Inoue knocked him into the ropes, unleashed a hellstorm of punches, and then paused, just for a second, as if to say, "This is what happens when you mock the monster." Then he finished the job. Still, the mocking continued. There was a sense of disbelief among certain Western boxing circles. How could a Japanese fighter competing in the lighter divisions dominate the sport so thoroughly? The disrespect wasn't always loud, but it was always there. Even when facing seasoned professionals, Inoue was often viewed as unproven simply because of where he came from. But in every fight, Inoue silenced those doubts with violence. Against the tough Filipino fighter Michael Dasmariñas, Inoue showed no mercy. Dasmariñas was another fighter who believed he had the key to beat Inoue. He had trained hard and claimed that he saw holes in the Japanese champion's style. But what he didn't account for was the sheer power and speed Inoue brings to the ring. From the very first round, Inoue stalked his prey. He used angles, feints, and timing to break down Dasmariñas' defense. And when he found his moment, he didn't waste it. A left hook to the body dropped Dasmariñas like a sack of bricks. He rose only to be dropped again by the same shot, twice more. The pain was visible on his face. He had tried to talk the talk. But now, lying on the canvas, he knew what it felt like to face the monster. Inoue's most recent fight saw him face a Korean opponent named Kim, who didn't mock him with words, but did so with attitude. Kim walked into the ring like a zombie, daring Inoue to hit him, nodding and smiling with every punch. It was the kind of misplaced confidence that fighters often use to intimidate their opponent. But with Inoue, it had the opposite effect. Kim's taunts didn't make Inoue hesitate, they made him angry. And when Inoue gets angry, the ring becomes a war zone. Early in the fight, Inoue landed a series of clean counter shots that turned Kim's smirk into a grimace. Kim, trying to appear tough, beckoned Inoue forward, inviting more punishment. Inoue obliged. He unloaded a flurry of punches that landed flush, each one harder than the last. Kim went down, then staggered back, up only to be battered again. The referee had no choice but to stop it. After the fight, a doctor joked that mocking Inoue in the ring could be a symptom of early concussive damage. It was a reminder that there is nothing to be gained and everything to be lost by underestimating. The Japanese champion Naoya Inoue's journey is not just about winning. It's about proving a point. That greatness knows no nationality and that respect must be earned not by where a fighter is from, but by what they do in the ring. The monster has faced arrogance, mockery, and disrespect from fighters across the globe. But one by one, he has silenced them. His resume is filled with names of those who once doubted him, fighters who questioned his strength, his experience, and even his name. Yet today they all remember that name, Naoya Inoue, the monster, the destroyer of doubt. The next time a cocky boxer decides to overlook him, to mock his heritage, or to minimize his achievements, they should pause and remember, every fighter who has ever disrespected the monster has ended up the same way, on the canvas, confused and humbled. Which fighter had the worst case of trash talk before facing Inoue? Which one do you think paid the highest price for their arrogance? Please, let us know in the comments, and as always, thank you for watching. Until next time, respect the monster. Respect the monster.